Hey, what's up? Welcome to Couch Riffs podcast number 83. Well, I don't know why I laughed. I'm Mike. My guest on this episode is Mike Doughty, the many moons ago former and frontman of Soul Coughing, which is, I loved the band. And he's been a solo artist for 20 years now, which is amazing. And he's, by all measure, crushing it. He's found the way to do it on his terms, and I love that. I remember in 2000, my Harvey Danger bandmates telling me, "Oh, Mike Doughty, he quit soul coughing, and he's driving around and playing acoustic shows and selling CDs off the front of the stage." And I remember thinking, that's too bad. That's depressing. But, sometimes I'm an idiot. And apparently it's worked out quite well. I applaud Mike for doing it on his terms. And he just celebrated 20 years of sobriety, which I'm very stoked about. We had a great conversation. We touched on the date today is, It's June 7th, 2020. So if there's a future and you're listening in the future, it's a pretty heavy time in the country right now. And we touched on some of that stuff here in this conversation. I went back to it later, doubting ourselves to be talking about it even. Which is also some of the problem. It's a symptom of what's happening now. I encourage you to go out and vote in November and always. So if you don't like what you're seeing, go vote and be the change that you want to see. Mike was a great conversation. Thank him and thank John Roderick for connecting us. Thanks, John. I don't like to thank you too often, but you deserve this one. Listen, if you like the podcast, you can leave a good review and a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. That'd be awesome. That'd help a lot. You could also go to couchriffs.com, buy a t-shirt, and you could, if you were really, really, really into the podcast, or even if you just were kind of into it. You don't have to be really into it. You can go over there to anchor.fm, search Couch Riffs, or just look in the description of this podcast, and you can follow the link there to become a pledge supporter every month. You can give as little as 99 cents a month to help make this podcast happen. Help me continue getting great guests like Mike. Now, I'm going to thank folks who have been supporting me for a while now. So thank you, Ryan Waters. Thank you, Hayden Smith. Thank you, Jamie McParland. Thank you, Matt Gabbs, Justin Jones. Thank you, Deja Colantuono. Thank you, Adam Pranica. Thank you, Teresa Morgan and Dan Hurst. Thank you, Joan Baker. Thank you, Dan Leary. Thank you, Kathy Giordano. Thank you, Mike Lacerda. Thank you, Rebecca Pellman. Thank you, Chris Smith. I had people who do this YouTube thing written down on a piece of paper, and I tore my studio apart, and I think I fucked up. Thank you, Paul Hustler. Thank you, Rolla Amplifiers. Oh man, I really fucked up. And thank you, River City Guitars. River City Guitars is a fantastic little guitar store in Spokane, Washington. Maybe you can visit them again. Maybe we're into phase, I don't know what phase we're in, but I'll bet you can. I'll bet you can visit them. And if you can't, you'll be able to soon. River City Guitars carries vintage, used, and really cool stuff. They have a website, rivercityguitars.com, and they have a load of stuff that has not made the website yet. Great, great stuff. Follow River City Guitars on social media to see things being posted there as they're acquired. And then eventually they'll make the website. But what do I know? You could probably get a hold of them through social and snatch some of that stuff up before it makes the the wider general public, and you snooze, you lose, is what they say. Every week, I pick something off of the website as my pick of the week. Now, this week, I picked a rare 1961 Supro Tone Master in a beautiful aged out white. So it's sort of a yellowed white. What a cool little guitar. And I can actually imagine Doughty playing this. It's got just a single humbucker in the neck position, but it's got a three-way tone selector. And in each position, there's a volume control for each tone position, each tone selector position, which is, I've never heard of that before. That's crazy. But it is a handsome little guitar, an Atomic era looking guitar, and I love it. Get over there to River City Guitars, take a look, give them a call. If you don't see what you're looking for on there, reach out to them, ask. There's a good chance they have it. All right? We're going to jump into the episode now. Listen, I love you. Be good to each other. Remember the golden rule. Don't be a dick. Are you there?
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. Let me turn the video.
No, we can vibe.
Then we can vibe.
The bad news is it's tougher to pick your nose and pull it off.
True.
Though, feel free.
You're very kind.
Yeah. Well, we're only 30 seconds. I'm going to
turn this on its side so I can see you. Yeah, there you go. That's you.
All right, great. How you doing, man?
Well, I mean, I'm doing okay. This is this isolation kind of works for me. I'm an isolator by nature.
Right.
So, I've had stuff to work on. I finished up a book. I'm finishing up a single. Dang it, Bobby. So I'm just fine. A protester got hit with a car, like a block and a half from where I live last night.
Intentionally?
Intentionally, yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ, man.
The question is whether or not it was intentionally, like I'm in the Klan intentionally, or intentionally like I'm late and I don't care about other human lives intentionally.
Right.
But it was intentional.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he put a Facebook post up. Like the driver that said, like, oh, you pussy protesters were in my way. And, if you don't, it was just insane. Like this guy, A, awful, B, very stupid.
Often they go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's not an exclusive dual trait.
But... No. They have, the word we've learned, which is comorbidity.
It's so fancy.
Yeah, indeed.
It almost sounds cool.
Yeah, almost.
If you knew better.
Almost goth enough to have fun, but not quite. I don't know if there are racist goths.
What's that?
I said I don't know if there are racist goths.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
I mean, as like a, there are individual racists who are goths, but like this, like the racist skins.
Oh, as a group,
equally like a racist goth,
right? Like group sub.
Yeah.
Cultural thing.
Yeah. Reddit.com/racist goth.
Do you know what I've never done? I've never been on Reddit.
Like not even like by accident?
No.
Huh. I've only been it when I've tried to look something up, like about, how to repair a guitar or something. And I click a link But I've never like gone to Reddit to be on Reddit to like look around.
It's only been in the last 6 months that I've even considered clicking on a search result that has come up.
Really?
That was a Reddit thing, because I always thought, oh, that's just a stupid like chat room thing where who the fuck knows who's there, right?
Well, I mean, it is like I know people that use it that are serious people that want to learn about stuff and talk about stuff, but it is where 4chan and then 8chan were born. So it is.
Wait a minute.
It is a source. Yeah.
What? Also, never been on 4chan, but
I got on 4chan once, like years ago, because I was like, what is it? And the dudes on there were comparing their shits. They were showing pictures of their shit. Yeah, so like that's a light day for Reddit. Like if there's no like sort of white power, domestic terrorism element, they're just showing shit. That's a mild day.
And so what is 8chan? Is that just twice as bad?
Yeah, well, they shut down 4chan. The guy who started it had a moment of
clarity,
human clarity, moment of clarity, and shut it down. So they started 8chan. Yeah, so
he doubled down.
It doubled down, literally.
Wow.
I'm just gonna cut to it and start 64chan, and it's only gonna be pictures of like puppies, flowers, rainbows.
And every time it gets shut down, you just square it, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Go 128chan.
Fuck. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So check this out. Yesterday at work, in almost perfect synchronization, I started the Book of Drugs.
Oh.
When I make cold coffee, so I'm in a large bottling plant, and I do this like small batch thing.
Right.
So I'm getting set up. I push play. As I am mopping up the last bit of my day, actually mopping, the book finishes. And it was an absolutely delightful companion to my. I mean, I don't know if it was all the brightest stuff, right?
But I understand.
But I thoroughly enjoyed that. You hooked me straight off the bat. I don't know what you don't mind talking about, or things
I can talk about it all.
I'll bet. It seems like
I got nothing.
So
I mean, I won't be going on Reddit and posting pictures of my shit, but that's about the only real Borderlands.
Not with your real name attached, at least.
Not with my real name. I'm going to be a catfish of shit. Like, I'm going to find pictures of shit and be, oh, this is my shit.
Wow.
That's not where you wanted to take this conversation, so I'm going to dial it back.
Go right into shit, right? No, but
I
just lead off hits. You hooked me early, and I had a specific question, and there were a bunch of questions that I felt like I was like, oh, I should write these down. It's not really my style. I'm not very good at that. But I do remember you saying that you felt like you were like a guilty person. Like if you were walking out of a store and a clerk was looking at you.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've had that same feeling my whole life as a kid.
Right.
And I've always equated that to when I was young. I was always the new kid. I moved a lot. Went to like 13 grade schools. And
wow.
I wondered if being a military kid, if you guys moved a lot and if that may have had anything to do with it.
Well, for a military family, our moving situation was pretty tame. So I was born in Kentucky, no memory of it. Went to West Point, New York, went to Kansas, went to Germany, went to Belgium, and then back to West Point. And 6, that's all I got. So my dad stayed at West Point. It's one of the very small number of places you can stay in the Army and not keep moving around. So in relative terms, I was solid and or on solid ground. And I have to say, like, a couple of years at West Point, second time, I was like, we got to get out of here, man. Like what's we got to move. Like this is not working for me. This is not the lifestyle I'm accustomed to.
Right.
But no, the guilt comes from actually smuggling drugs and stealing. I think,
Right.
Not massive quantities of drugs.
Sure.
But certainly, and I always felt like I was a bad person. So I guess I did. I guess it predated the stealing. Maybe stealing came from, just feeling like, well, I'm an asshole anyway, I might as well steal.
Right.
But also, like, if you grow up, especially at West Point, which is incredibly thoroughly patrolled, you were always under the eye of the military police, the MPs, like always.
I was in the Marine Corps.
Oh.
So I'm very familiar with being on base and
Right. Well, I was just a dependent, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
I just know, like, being adjacent to that world.
Sure. It's weird, man. Super weird.
How long were you in?
One contract. Like, I joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school, kind of on a dare. I was like a long-haired.
That's great.
I mean, I was a long-haired kid that was too intimidated to move to the city, which is what I wanted to do,
Uh-huh.
And I was always like the loud, weird, funny kid that went home and was depressed. But
Sure.
then, you know the deal. You know the drill.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know what I was going to do. I could have stayed in Granite Falls and, got hooked on meth like the rest of my family and probably ended up in prison like everyone in my family. But instead, I was like, shit, what am I going to do? And a bunch of my friends joined the Marine Corps, and the recruiter talked to me one day, and I kind of like smugly like laughed at him like, oh yeah, whatever, He was like, you want to come play basketball with us? Yeah, whatever. I'll take you to the rim or whatever. And then some folks saw me talking to him, were like, you're too much of a pussy to do it. And then I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to do it. Fuck you. And I did.
Wow.
But it was probably one of the best things one of the most foolish, but best things I ever did for myself.
Did you go to war?
No. I was.
It must have been the 90s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah. So I am, I'll be 49 this year.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
I'll be 50 in 3 days.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. June 10th,
Wow.
this Wednesday.
Amazing.
Yep.
Happy pre-birthday.
Thank you very much. I changed the year in my mind when the new year changes over, so
yeah,
it doesn't like I won't hit me like a ton of bricks.
Right. Was there must have been a point when you like lost track, because it like 40 is a landmark birthday, right? And then like 45. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how old I am. Am I 49? Am I 47?
Wow, no, I don't think I've ever lost track.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever lost track. I've forgotten my friends' names.
Yeah.
Like I've forgotten my own address, my own phone number. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super memory man, but I think I've always been aware of my age. Maybe that's got to stop.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. So I think as a career move, it's better for me to lean into old,
right,
than it is to try and look younger, you know. Like, I
Right.
think an older artist, you become an art wizard if you are still working, you still want to go out and play shows and stuff. So this is going to grow. I might be the guy who's got the long hair that's bald on top.
The Gallagher.
Hang on a second. Dog's freaking out.
Oh yeah.
Lunchy boy. Lunchy boy. I'm going to hold him so he doesn't. Hi, this is Lunchy.
Sure. Oh, hey, little friend. Do you see my guys back here?
Yes, I did.
We got, that's Rosie. And then next to Rosie is Mr. Big. He's the little one.
Mr. Biggs.
That's Mr. Big.
Oh, Mr. Big.
Yeah.
Right. I knew a guy named Mr. Biggs.
Oh, really?
Gave me my first record deal. Yeah, Bob Biggs.
Wow.
/ Records. You know?
I love that in telling your story, there are name changes. There are people who go unnamed and only described as their function in your former band. But then poor M. Ward just gets name checked right out. You guys must be friends.
Yeah, but I mean, I not friends, but sure. But he was like totally nice. It was about like he's gonna feel bad about not knowing about my recording career? Come on. We had a great time.
Yeah. That I got to that part and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like,
or just the relief of knowing that there was a real name in here. Honestly, I wish I wished I had done with every person in the book what I did with my ex-bandmates. Because you spend all this time cooking up fake names.
Right.
And, and then you get on the phone with the lawyer who's like, no, there are too many similar letters, or that, it's got to be longer name or shorter name. It can't begin with the same letter. It can't rhyme, And so a lot of these names and a lot of events, locations and characteristics are just fictional, which is so bothersome. And often the real story is more evocative than the fake stuff. So I wish I had, in terms of things I had a fair amount of control over. I wish I just, called people, the record company guy, the professor, just name them by their function and not
record company man 1, record company man 2. Rank and file, fellas.
Yeah.
Hey, Lunchy.
Hang on. Yeah, Lunchy is this is his neighborhood, and people don't seem to understand that.
Well, we got a little dog also.
Yeah.
And we got him second. We had the bigger dog, which is also a medium dog. And he kind of rolled in. We're not sure what he is, but he's definitely got mini dachshund, probably some Chihuahua and some Jack Russell, which is just a ferocious combination.
Yeah, that's really that's pretty severe right there.
Ticking all the boxes.
Yeah.
For aggro.
Yeah, my dog has never experienced the consequence of his actions. Like a dog has never just been like, well, I'm 3 times your size and I'm going to bite you.
Right.
So he has not learned the hard way. And so I've kept him sheltered and allowed him to be the king.
Do you think he would? I mean, I don't think that Mr. Big would actually learn that lesson.
Well, I mean, it's not like one time they would, like just one bad event, but a dog in a pack of dogs learns they're not the alpha.
Yeah.
If the dogs are left there to their own devices.
Right. If only people were that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
A lot of lessons hard learned.
Yeah. Yeah, we can, but I think there are a great many things that we can only learn the hard way. I think this pandemic being one of them. I think the world is opening up, and nobody believes that it can happen in Memphis, Tennessee, or New Orleans or Austin, and we're just gonna have to learn the hard way,
Right.
and it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend, a very close friend, whose wife ended up getting sick. He didn't
Wow.
get sick at all, and
Right.
neither did their daughter. But she ended up in the hospital, like
Yeah.
with a breathing apparatus, and it was real nasty business. She recovered, which is incredible.
Right. It is so enigmatic. It is crazy making. Who gets it? The severity to which they get it, and like Memphis has been barely touched by it, barely touched by it, and everybody is, like even the hipsters. I live in a super hipster part of Memphis, which is, Valley of the Bernie stickers. They've still got their Bernie signs up, their Bernie stickers on.
Good for them.
And I'm sorry?
Good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even I went to hipster coffee joint today, and 2/3 of the people didn't have masks. People behind the counter had masks. Most of the people did not. And it's like, you might be right. There may have been some kind of weird factor in New York and Milan and Madrid. But if you're wrong, you're really wrong.
Yeah. I think that's something that comes with age, and even, getting on and off of a stage, for instance. There are probably years and years where you just like jump right. Like you wouldn't even squat to hop off the front of a stage. You just hop right off the front of the stage, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Those fucking days are long gone for me.
Long gone.
I'm like, where's the stairs that go around? Is there a ramp? I don't see very well. I don't know if I'll make all the steps.
Yeah, I just watched a movie that was all long shots. There were very few for the first half of that. Vast of Night, which is really great on Amazon.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's good. It's new. It's like an extended Twilight Zone episode basically, but it's really great. And half of the movie is these super wide shots, so the characters having a conversation are like little tiny people, and I can't see them. I'm like, this is driving me crazy. It's just, you get a little reminder every once in a while.
Have you gone bifocal yet?
Yeah, I got the progressive lenses.
Yeah,
I
do that.
Yeah.
I wear contacts a lot, but then I'm just fucked. Then I'm like, oh well, I got to get readers.
I think they got progressive contacts.
Yeah, and they also had me on this program where one eye had a lens that saw distance and one saw near. So
Whoa.
Yeah. So they're, I don't know. I wasn't into it. It was a little.
It sounds like a way to be seasick all the time.
It didn't make me seasick, but it didn't make me see better.
Right.
Seasick.
See, that's great. Brought them together. It's a lifetime.
Is it weird? So you've been in Memphis for 5 years?
5 years. Yep. Bought a house 3 or 4 years ago, which is insane.
So you didn't buy, you went down there, rented a place, or scoped out
for like a year.
Yeah.
For like a year. I actually, if I had bought, the house that I live in, it was under $200,000, right? Fucking nuts. Yeah. Big ass house in the middle of everything in the groovy neighborhood, under $200,000. It would have been like $120,000 if I bought it when I first moved to Memphis.
Wow.
But yeah, the gentrification curve was very sharp.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Was that a weird transition after so long in New York?
Well, I mean, I just love Memphis, like more so than wanting to leave New York. I just wanted to be in Memphis, and it's hard, especially as 45 years old to like, um, be completely without anybody. Although there ended up being a couple of people who'd moved from New York just randomly, and so they were my friends. And it took me a minute. It was lonely for a minute.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, New York is like, look, anybody who tells you like New York is over, they're not your friend. Don't hang out with them. Like they are bad people, and they have a bone to pick. And like I got to New York in 1989, and everyone was telling me it was over. So that is an eternal theme.
Right.
It was distressing that I could not afford to live in the neighborhoods I ran around in my teens and 20s, in my 30s. But more than that, I just wanted to do a thing,
Yeah.
And I just looked for a place that I liked, and I just, Memphis was suggested to me. I was like, I don't know, Memphis, whatever. And so I was doing a fact-finding mission to Nashville, and I drove over here, and I had an apartment like in a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there are a lot of beautiful places in the South. I probably wouldn't want to live in a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I mean, the blue bubble phenomenon is very strong. Like this little whatever 5 square miles of Midtown Memphis is blue as blue can be, and it is super Trump land right when you cross East Parkway.
right.
And it's the same in Nashville, but a little bigger, and it's the same in Knoxville and the same in Chattanooga, but a little smaller. So, I haven't experienced any culture shock. Some people I know came down here to work in like the hospitals or jobs like that, and they're thrown in with people that have different belief systems than they do, and they find it jarring. They experience culture shock, but I have not.
Right. I moved to the city, but to Brooklyn 5 years ago, probably uh, almost exactly like 5 years ago in July.
Right.
And it was exciting for a minute, but me and my wife lived in a tiny apartment, and I was already looking to get out of Seattle. I didn't want to
Right.
yeah. So we bought a house upstate, up near Hudson, but in the
There you
farm
go.
country. So there's it's great up here. I don't know if you spend any time in Hudson.
I have certainly played Helsinki.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah.
That place is good.
Yeah. And my friend Maggie Estep lived in Hudson, and she passed away, I think, 7 years ago. And I was up there after she died for her memorial. It was like a huge number of people came up from the city. It was very moving. I'll always associate Hudson with her.
Yeah. It's a crazy place here. It's I hear about what it was like 20 years ago,
Right.
and now it feels like, I don't know, it just feels like a fancy neighborhood in Brooklyn on the main street. And then you see people buying up houses, and I don't know where everyone is going. I don't know where they're being displaced, but
Right.
uh, it, it's a little troubling to see because it's pretty drastic, the shift.
Right, right.
Um,
Well, um, I grew up, from 1981 on in West Point in upstate New York. So I know from upstate New York.
yeah.
And people, like, the first time I heard someone say they were moving to Kingston, I was like, who moves to Kingston? like you're born there and you can't get out, or you get out. I mean, I'm sorry, Kingston. I'm sorry, fellow countrymen of upstate of the Hudson Valley.
It's coming along. They have a couple
teams,
of venues there.
Well, they have all kinds of good stuff there now.
Yeah.
But I can't. I was talking to an English friend who kind of didn't get it, and I was like, well, imagine if Slough became hipster central, and you were like, I just went to this great art gallery in Slough, and Slough's just really lively, and you get a really great Ethiopian meal in Slough, and it would just make no sense to you. And to me, anything in upstate New York, I've been there, I've seen it, it's great. Many people I love are up there, but I just have this instinctive reaction, like, why would you go upstate?
Right. I mean, right in my little town, right in my little town, there are 3 Trump flags flying high,
Right, right.
But
are you saying that's a little or a lot?
I mean, there are probably only 25 houses.
Oh.
It's pretty crazy, though. Yeah. I mean, I'm a volunteer firefighter here, and luckily, it's a sort of a unwritten rule that no politics get talked about in the fire hall.
Right.
Although I've started to pick out just from looking at the fellas, you wouldn't really be able to guess, but once you talk to them long enough, you start to figure out who's who. If you feel like you want to talk local biz.
Well, I mean, is it not very difficult to not talk about current events these days? I mean, I think you can avoid talking about Trump.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to avoid talking about Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, since you're in a small town, you must have friends that are cops.
I don't know any cops.
Oh, really?
No.
Is that right?
I don't know any cops.
Yeah, in a small town, like, I didn't know any of the MPs actually, but I was familiar with cops in Highland Falls. I have a couple of cop friends now, and it is very, very, very complicated. It is heartbreaking, because in another context, you would think that if somebody was like, yeah, I go to work every day and I get spit on and people hate me, everyone fucking hates me, and kids throw rocks at me. In any other context, you'd go like, oh man, that fucking sucks. That's terrible. Pull back a little bit. And, it's like, I always try to engage people on a human level, no matter what, but it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
No, it's, I would have never, for years and years and years, people have been saying like, well, the next time the shit hits the fan, it's going to be a class war, or the next time the shit hits the fan, it's going to be a race war. And I never thought that would come to that. I thought, no, we'll work it out before that point. And now, now I'm starting to think I was fucking naive. Now I know I was naive.
The thing that I think is, you can't change the cops without talking to the cops. You can't, like, if everyone in the United States government was replaced with an Elizabeth Warren clone, the people who become cops would still be the people who become cops.
Right.
And, there's no argument more specious than, not all cops, hashtag not all cops. But what cops there are that are decent individuals, you have to engage with them. Or I don't think anything's going to change, revolution or not. After the revolution, there's still going to be cops. And they're going to be cops that, they don't, you don't become a cop for the pay.
Right.
You either have a deep sense of obligation to serve the community, or you want power.
Right.
And I hear, defund the police, and it's like, dude, you're just clearing the way for people that the only thing they want is to have power over other human beings. And it's scary.
I gotta say, I don't mind seeing a cop car on fire. And I don't say that. I mean, here's the thing. It's like,
yeah,
there's a part of me that rather enjoys it, right? There's also a part of me that knows that if someone was breaking into my house,
right,
I want help.
Right.
Because in the dark, who knows if I can handle this person? There's a lot of unknowns in the middle of the night.
It's fair enough. I mean, I look at the protests, and I don't, I believe in the righteousness of the protesters. I mean, obviously there's shitty people that just want to do shitty things, but I think that's vastly overstated. I look at the righteousness and the dignity, and the passion, and that's what my heart goes to. I don't, I do know that, it's hard to have a job where everybody hates you.
No, can you imagine being an armed dentist where you just like, you roll into a grade school with a sidearm and a flamethrower, and you're like, all right, we're giving you fillings today, you little fuckers.
I know. And it's, I tell my friend, my NYPD friend, that, like, look, NYPD have never been anything but total dicks to me. Not violent, not threatening, clearly my privilege has worked in these scenarios.
Right.
But just dicks. Just like, why are you acting like I'm, a dude just fucking slammed into the back of my car, and the cop was like, I didn't see anything. Get to and it was like, dude, why do you have to be a dick about it? I do not understand.
Doesn't want to do the paperwork.
He doesn't want to do the paperwork, doesn't want to get involved, just lives in a world where, they just assume everybody hates them. And I talked to my friend about that, and he's like, that sucks. That's terrible.
The fact remains that if you were a black motorist and you got rear-ended, there's a good chance that you'd end up in the back of the car if you were lucky.
Yes, like, what did you do to get rear-ended?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, what I've been saying forever is, I don't have the first fucking idea of what it's like to be black. And I don't, it's not that I don't want to know, but I certainly don't want to experience it. And I don't think anyone should.
a friend of mine, a teacher in Memphis, moved to San Diego, moved his wife and kids, black dude, and he was just sort of telling me about, oh, like, we gotta get the van, we gotta do this and this, and then I have a friend following us. Like, you have a friend? He was like, yeah, I got a white friend who's just gonna follow us the whole way. And yeah, and it's like that's reasonable. That is completely reasonable to say, people get shot in front of their children.
Right.
It is completely reasonable to assess that as a possibility. It's just a bottom line safety possibility. And I go through a world where I don't see that. I don't look down the street and see, who's threatening to me other than like my drunk neighbor. I don't, I walk past a police car and I don't end up doing calculus like, am I in danger? What did I do? Blah, 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 blah. I'm a guilty guy. I still feel like, they look at me like I got drugs on me. But, it's a world full of danger that is invisible to me most of the time. And it's terrifying. And I think there is just a knee-jerk white tendency to want to minimize it. It clicks off in my brain sometimes like, well, what happened? Or, we don't really know. Or like that kind of stuff just clicks in my brain. And it is so dispiriting to have that thought. And I just feel so ashamed and baffled as to why we would absorb that. Like, why has a level of objectivity been removed? What removed it? Like, was it how we were raised? Was it how we were schooled? Is it just the position of privilege makes us entirely blind to any possibility of someone being oppressed?
Right.
That it just makes absolutely no logical sense to us. But, I find myself going to that place, and it's like, that's the fucking problem, man. That is the problem.
If I could just put my finger on one problem, that would be great, because then you could just squish it. Yeah,
yes,
there are a lot of problems, aren't there?
There are indeed. But I think that pretty much the closest task to each of us right now is to look for that bias, the subtlety of that bias, how it makes us react, how it permeates our mindset. My mom called me, which blew my mind. She called me and she actually watched a video that had being shared that I had shared. And that's why she watched it. But, clearly she's been watching the protests and the violence. And usually my mom calls me, there's like 10 minutes to talk about garden. Just immediately we talk about gardening for 10 minutes. Whatever she's interested in. She's almost 80 years old. But she immediately is like, I saw that thing. I can't believe I'm always, I expect Black people to act white. And what about this girl that I tutor? Am I trying to get her to be white? And it just, my mind was blown that, this West Point lady had seen bias in herself and wanted to stop.
And That is the blessing and the curse of the information age. The
Right.
blessing in that particular story is that it reached her. The curse is that
And the
there's a
sadness
lot of
is
information out there.
a lot of people had to die to get to that point. And a lot of people have been telling us straight out what's been happening to them
For years.
and it
Generations.
for years and years. And you go, okay, yeah, well, that sounds really bad. However sincere your empathy is, George Floyd got murdered on camera, like not like we saw, like
some of it, and then he died
shot.
Mysteriously in a,
right,
ambulance.
or like, did he have a gun? I can't really see. What is that? No, we watch the entirety of his murder, and maybe we could have heard people telling us about this in a more substantive way 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
There's a lot to be collectively ashamed about.
Yeah.
What I definitely know is that I could probably tell a cop to fuck off and still would not be treated like that.
Right.
And that's
right.
That's white privilege.
That's white privilege. I get pulled over for a speeding ticket. I'm super nice. Almost always I get away without a ticket.
Right.
Privilege, man. Fucking privilege.
I think I'm speculating, but I think that probably white folks specifically, who deny that white privilege is a thing, that it is a real thing, I think that they are fearful that their comforts will be diminished if the playing field is leveled.
Well, I mean, I would say a couple things about that. People feel that the word privilege implies that there's a limited supply.
Right.
Like only so many people are sitting in business class.
It's VIP
type of thing. And I don't think there's a limited supply of rights and dignity.
No.
I do think that in art, and comedy and writing and pretty much every artistic field, there's a lot of mediocre people that realize that the jig is up for them. That there are going to be many, many more talented people.
We stopped recording for a moment, which is fucking awful. It's also really hard to self-examine yourself and look at yourself and say, where have I had it easy? And do I deserve, like, once you get into the, do I deserve this?
Right.
Then if you have even a shred of self-doubt, or, you have issues of any kind, it's a dangerous place, because you could fall into a depression. You could, I don't know. I'm prone to just like selling all my shit and giving stuff away, and then because I feel like other folks deserve it more than I do, and then all of a sudden I'll be sitting around and be like, oh shit, what'd I do?
Yeah. Right when I got my first record deal was about the end of the time where every record label would be like, well, we already have a woman on the label.
Right.
Yeah. Like I remember Ani DeFranco was my classmate, and she spent a couple of years trying to get a record deal before she started her own company. And she got that, like, thanks, we already have a woman on the label, you know. And so I was aware of that and suppressed it as I became more successful, knowing that there was an obstacle that I didn't have to clear. I also knew that, oh my God, I knew this head of A&R at a huge company. And he talked about all of his huge selling Black artists, hip hop artists, R&B artists. Each one of them would come in at some point and say, listen, I have this project. It's like a folk thing, or it's, you know, and they would have some arty thing that they wanted to do that had nothing to do with how they were making money for the big company. And he would laugh at them, basically. You know, whereas every weird idea I've ever come up with has been considered. And I'm certain it's because people think that, you know, well, he's white, so therefore maybe there's some substance to this. But like huge artists that, you know, just, you know, like I want to do a jazz record, just some passion project, making millions of dollars, these companies that, you know, were laughed at. So I have always been aware of that, and always been aware of things that I have access to in my profession that women and people of color and gay people and trans people don't. I mean, can you imagine being a trans artist in 1994? You know, like if they couldn't frame you as a novelty act, you're not going to have a career.
Right. Yeah, you are a cabaret act for two or three more decades. Sorry.
Right.
That's the reality of the 80s and 90s.
Get used to Joe's Pub. Yeah.
Right. Being a Gen Xer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a whole thing, right? There's a whole thing to being a Gen Xer.
There is a thing.
You're into rock music, you're into punk, and you're into metal, and you're into hip hop. Most Gen Xers are into all these things. They're all things that like either were at their genesis during, you know, growing up in our generation, or they arguably hit their apex, right?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we you know, we're the last generation that lived before hip hop existed.
Right. There's also this like the slackerness.
The slacker thing.
This, which is weird. There's I remember moving to the city. I didn't have, I didn't have the balls to move to the big city. I had to go. I went away to the Marine Corps, got some confidence, and then ended up in Seattle, right? So I grew up in a tiny logging town. So I always had this like hick inferiority complex.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And which made me put on a real like I'm a sophisticated, simple person thing, right?
Right.
And I bought a fretless bass, and that was supposed to signal my
good job.
Yeah,
good
thanks.
Job.
Yeah, for real.
Virtual pat on back. Good job.
Yep. And I don't know. I got to the city, and I just I never felt like I fit in, right? But there's also this. I want to try because there's a thing that I want to do. Mm-hmm. But there was this attitude where I'm not supposed to try too hard because that's sleazy in some way, right?
People wanted artists to be children. They wanted us to have completely pure motives. They wanted us to kind of stay in this little childlike world of pure motivation. And it was, I mean, my dad was an Army officer. And so I didn't really grow up around money. Where he came from, he did not have money growing up. So he was always panicked about money. Panic. Like, oh my God, we're going to lose the house. Oh my God, you're going to have to do this. And,
Right.
So always this belief that I was, this close from being destitute. So when I started making money at music, I was so happy. I was so relieved. And I started, sort of about like, fuck you. Sometimes I would like, put on like a rapper's head and be like, yeah, I only do it for the money. I don't care about the music. I just want the money. It's all about money for me.
Right.
But I mean, just those rules are rich kid rules, never become a professional, always stay pure, never get good at your instruments,
Right.
Like it's one thing to be like, look, here's a guitar, get on stage. It's another thing to be like, well, now that you've been playing for 10 years, you sound a little bit too good.
There are plenty of parts in your book where you talk about being treated like a second-class musician in your
by my band. Yeah.
Yep. And hearing you talk about it, I think that I was a fucker probably to some people in the same way.
Really?
I think probably because as a reaction to my hickness.
Mm-hmm.
When I got
people are insecure.
Yeah.
And that's just fine. I mean, that's just fine. I look at the Soul Coughing experience and I wonder why they didn't help me learn.
Right.
The sort of the theme of Soul Coughing was holding me back, which I know it sounds paranoid, but it really was like an active thread throughout the band's existence. And like a year or two after Soul Coughing, I was doing something with a drummer and I was trying to explain to him what I wanted. And he said, oh, you just want the snare on the 2 and the 4. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Oh my God. And if I had known that 10 years ago, I would have been able to come in and say, hey, the snare on the 2 and the 4. And, like I have this very generous bass player, cello player that I work with, and he's got a degree in music composition. And so he knows all the shit.
Right.
He's read Schoenberg and all that stuff. And he'll like explain things in a very kind of moderate, simple way. So like, I know what different intervals are now.
Right.
Shit is not that complicated. It's just, right. I mean, I don't know if it was our generation in particular, but certainly when I was coming up, you could really get made fun of for not being knowledgeable. Right. by an artist who could play many notes.
Right.
Many notes real fast.
Right. Yeah, I think the best thing that I did when I moved to Seattle is I quit playing guitar because I was like a metal guitar player.
Right. Switched to bass.
And I switched to bass, and it was the best thing I ever did. There was this band in town called Critters Buggin'. Did you know who that was?
I remember that band, sure.
Yeah. And I just thought they were the shit. So I took lessons from their bass player and started a band that was just like a terrible version of that band. The whole thing,
Yeah.
And then went back to guitar playing. And now I can comfortably do both and be more musical.
Right. And you learned a lot more about guitar playing, I'm guessing, by playing bass.
Absolutely. Mostly I learned a lot about rhythm and playing with a drummer because I had done very little playing with drummers,
Sure.
Not any quality playing. This is like,
right.
All right, bash it out. Never thinking about like, hey, that kick pattern doesn't work there. Or, hey,
yeah.
just like drunk or stoned high school jams, basically.
Right. Not hearing what the other players are doing.
Right.
I think that the thing that I've learned to do over the years is when I feel like I'm choking, when I feel like I'm going south on stage, the instinct is to get bigger. Just like focus everything on the mic and like, get bigger. But the thing to do is to sort of visualize, like, here's the bass player, here's the keyboard player, here's the drummer. I'm listening, and try to do everything just listening and sort of, rather than getting big, like getting small and listening. And it doesn't come easy to guitar players.
No.
Like bass players learn that lesson much more functionally than guitar players do.
It also doesn't come very easily to drunk people.
Well, that's very true. Unless you're in the Stooges, in which case.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know if they were really listening to the finer points of everything.
Yeah.
You talk about the first time being on stage when you were sober. Was that must have been a harrowing transition as you continued?
Performing wasn't that hard. It was daunting, but it wasn't something that I felt estranged from. Writing music was something like I felt I might not be able to do anymore. I may not have the capacity anymore. Like my receptors were totally fried. And it took me like a year or 2 years to really start coming up with stuff that was like, I actually can be an artist again. But the scariest thing was the inability to create.
Right. I feel like you are an Elvis Costello fan, yes?
Oh, yeah.
I read it.
I don't know how you got that. How did you get that?
I either read
Huge, yeah.
or heard him speaking once and him talking about how all of his early material was based on like he was creating and destroying relationships so that he could fuel his storytelling.
Right.
And that was a tired concept for him, and he had moved on. And it's a very, I don't know. He didn't talk about how he felt about that, really. I don't remember him talking about how he felt about that. He just said
how he felt about having a pattern of creation and destruction in his life.
Yeah, he just sort of said it matter-of-factly. He wasn't like, he didn't sound like he had any remorse or regret about it. He was just like, well, that's how that was.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't he have an album called When I Was Cruel?
Yes.
I think he does, yeah. And that, that means when I was young, when I was pretty,
Right.
Like you learn empathy. That's how I interpret When I Was Cruel to me as a title. But yeah, I mean, I could be fucking mean when I was a kid, like mean, like indie rock mean.
Yeah, there ain't no mean like indie rock mean.
There ain't no mean like indie rock mean. It was so fucking dumb. I don't know if it still exists. I hope it was peculiar to my generation. I mean, all kinds of artists are talking about depression and anxiety and bullying and like being much more upfront with their emotions now. I hope to God they're not being dicks to each other like we were dicks to each other back in the day.
Right.
But so I got my heart broken when I was 19, and I wrote about nothing else for like 11 years. It was all coming from that, and I was not kind to her, and I made sure she knew that she was an awful, awful human being,
Right.
I was 19. I dated her for like 2 months, and I was just devastated, and that black hole of that seems like it's never going to close. And even when I was over it, I was always going back to that, and drawing from it.
Right. Do you think that, I mean, obviously the intensity of youthful emotions way outweighs anything that I could feel now. Like I just feel,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember being young and being told by older people, like, you know, when you get older, this and you'll feel differently once you have some more perspective, and it would make me so angry.
Right.
It would make me furious, and I would
Mm.
look at them like they were idiots, like they had lost touch.
Right.
And now I know that they were right.
Yeah, I mean, I wish those things were more often I statements. Like, well, I got mellow as I grew up, and but a lot of it's grounded in feeling insecure about someone being younger than you, and you're like, well, you are gonna, blah, blah, blah. You just watch out. You're also gonna have a belly. You're blah, 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 blah. Instead of going like, oh yeah, when I turned 30, I started getting fatter.
Right.
I started to see things differently, and and then the kid is free to go, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. But they absorb it as not a fuck you, but a perspective.
In the area where you live in Memphis, is
Mm.
there a large young people population? Is there teens and 20s there?
Yeah, they're getting gentrified out, which is fucking nuts. But like, there's like what I call the queer hippie house down there. There's some young people across the street. There's some young people right there. And generally, Memphis is small, so you just meet people. And so, like, I've collaborated literally with a 17-year-old and with an 80-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's fucking intense. The 17-year-old, her mom was here. I was like, your mom's gonna be here. Like, we can write together, but your mom's gonna be here.
Right.
So
I wonder if I went to write music with someone at age 17 and one of my parents was around. I would have been a shock if one of my parents was around when I was 17, but
right.
if that would make me feel like restrict myself or edit myself.
So here's what happened: is her mom sat in the living room and just used the Wi-Fi, and we were in the studio. And when I love working with young artists, I love like sort of drawing this out of them. I just love doing it. I wish I could do more of it in my life as a profession, and I'm pretty good at it, like getting people to talk about their shit.
Sure.
And so you usually just start out like, oh, what's going on with you? You just sort of have a conversation, and like, oh, did you journal anything? And blah, blah, blah. And so we started writing this song, and she was like, well, I'm thinking about, and there was and she would shut up like, oh my God, this terrible secret that I'm keeping. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then her, respected it. And then her mom was like, oh, I'm going to go get some coffee. Want anything? And she left. And immediately she was like, okay, there's this boy, and he works on a farm, and he's 19, and he dropped out it was like, all right, now, so like, obviously you're living a life of decadence and immorality, like it seemed like very serious to her, like she was going to get in big trouble.
Right.
Yeah, it was great.
So, do you record at home? Do you have a recording set up? And
I do, but it's not good, and I don't try to make it good. I try and like think about Daniel Johnston.
Sure.
Guided by Voices. Elliott Smith's first album, I love lo-fi. I'm really into the recordings that I've made, but they're, like I can't record a drummer, like I wouldn't know how to do a live band. This being said, I'm trying to put together a single to put out this summer. And I've just been writing topical shit, and I want to put it out. I'm gonna have to figure out how, the drummer's gonna do. Send the drummer the demo. Drummer's gonna cut to the demo. He'll email it back to me. I'll clean that up. Email it to the bass player. Bass player will do this. Keyboard player will do this. And trying to figure out how to, assemble this home recording Frankenstein.
Right.
But I gotta get somebody real to mix. I can't, even just mixing is something that I don't do well.
Yeah, I can't do that shit to make it sound good.
Buddy. Lunchy's freaking out. Turns out there's birds.
Oh my God. No, I had to shut my blinds in the room here so that the dogs couldn't see outside, but they've been mostly asleep the whole time.
Doing their thing.
We wake up at 5:30 around here.
Whoa, do you really?
Yeah, I can't sleep in past 6. Like 6 is it's all over. At 6, it's like I'm wide awake.
I used to be that kind of person. It just stopped one day. Like early sobriety for like 5 or 6 years, I was like up at 5:30 every day, and then one day I was just like, I'm gonna sleep till 8, and then it's been somewhere between 8 and 9 every day ever since.
Oh, I remember something. When did the Book of Drugs get published?
2012.
12.
2012. Yeah.
It's 8 years old.
It's 8 years old.
Holy shit.
I know, right?
Maybe when did you do the audiobook? Did you do that?
2012.
Oh, you did?
Came out at the same time.
Wow. Yep. Okay. So, unless some things happened in the last 8 years with you, you just celebrated
20 years on the 5th of May.
Wow.
20 motherfucking years. Yeah.
Happy
How
birthday.
about them apples?
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Are you in the deal?
I was for a while. I'm sober. When I got to New York, there have been moments when I got to New York, I didn't go to meetings. And you know what? The thing is when I got to New York is exactly when I should have gone right back to meetings. Because I had 6 years, 5 years. I had 5 years. Yeah. And
I was just... Go ahead, sorry.
I got to New York and I was like, you know what? I'm happy. I'm married. I have a good job. I'm working on this album. I'm happy about it. And then... I was like, I'll bet that since I'm not an insufferable cunt in my life, that I could probably casually drink. I could have a glass of wine with my wife at dinner. Or I could, it would be cool. Like if I was out.
You went WWD. Wine with dinner.
Man, and I'll tell you, it lasted about 10 months. But by the end of 10 months, it was like probably not as bad as it ever was, but right. I would have stolen a car if I was stumbling home drunk and the keys. Mm-hmm. I'm just like that kind of irresponsible asshole. So now I'm back to, now I'm back to 3 years. 3.5 years.
All right. Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah. And I, knock on wood, I just hopefully know, you already know, but I just hope that I never fool myself again, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like I have years where I don't think about it, but I switched meds earlier this year, and before the pandemic. God, if I did it during the pandemic, but I just went to the darkest place, and like, I don't know that I would have gone out to a liquor store, but if somebody had a bag of dope, like,
Right.
good night, nurse. You know,
Do you have dreams about doing drugs?
Not really. I have dreams about smoking cigarettes. Yeah, which is so weird. And I'll always wake up like so bummed out that I'm a smoker again. Because I smoked 3 packs a day. I smoked all the live long day.
Right.
I wanted to say this is ironically, I was talking to a friend of mine who moved to Boston about the same time I moved to Memphis.
Oh, why would you move to Boston?
His mom's there, and I feel you. I'm not, I'm neutral on this topic now, but I feel you. I was in New York. And we were both like, we don't miss New York at all, but we really miss meetings in New York.
Right.
Because I have them on Zoom now. And so we've been going to like our old home groups. And, there's just a way they do it in New York that, and the people and, like I really miss it. I mean, I got my shindigs down here, but I loved it in New York. I really miss it.
There's a lot about New York that is very cool. Cool in a way that LA will never be cool, no matter how many New Yorkers move there. Right?
Yeah.
And Nashville will never be cool in the way that New York, Portland will never be cool in the way that New York is cool.
You are. I'm not gonna say anything, but you're the New York guy now. You're being that guy.
Well, I mean, I don't live there now. I mean, I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to be there.
Right.
In the thick of it. Right now, my wife and
New York is like you have to wear something nice to go to CVS. Cool.
Right. Yeah, you can wear your camo sweatpants to anywhere here.
Right.
Up in Hudson, you can wear that to the nicest restaurant.
Yeah. But the cool was oppressive in New York to a certain degree.
I mean, I feel like you could get on the train in sweatpants and no one would even look at you. Like, I think
no one would look at you. That's true, but
you can get away with a lot there.
You get away with, but I was always like, I always felt the pressure to be cool in New York. That is not a pressure in Memphis.
Right.
Cool though it is, there isn't the same kind of like feeling of ostracism lurking around the corner if you do something wrong.
Right. There's the cool that, it is cool. It's like
cool.
Leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette, fucking cool. But then it's also, there's an element of of its reputation circulating on itself. Like,
sure,
just the pressure of being cool that people are just acting out, which is stupid.
Right. Very stupid.
But I feel like LA has that part in spades, right? Just their idea of what is cool is a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, I think New York is a very particular kind of social pressure. LA, I really insulted someone by telling them I don't believe in astrology. She was like, what sign are you? I was like, well, I'm a Gemini, but I don't really believe in that. She was like, well, it's just It's just where the stars are, it's not. And it was really like, I was like, wow, am I not allowed to not believe? Am I like a flat earther here? Like,
it is, for the record, astrology is not simply where the fucking stars are. Not if
no.
you're going to project animal shapes onto them that do not exist.
Right.
And other mythological creatures and storylines.
Or behaviors or, but it really, like, it's that kind of, that like all that fluffy stuff is really going on. And, God bless him. And there's a lot of good stuff in there, but.
I'll get weird for a second though. Cause you talked a little bit about your, having your acid trip and recording your fabric story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I'm a hippie. That's for sure. But when the guy said to me, like, if you eat only raw food, it de-ages you. That's when I was like, yeah. So, but yeah, I'm a total fucking hippie. I mean, like Alan Watts books, Thomas Merton, Joseph Campbell, like up the wazoo, like absolutely.
I think I do believe in energy.
Sure.
I don't know that I believe in ghosts, but I think that if you if I left an impression on you, we hung up and I died, whatever energy carries over, maybe that's
very true.
That's a ghost. That's
the way
energy.
You live in someone's memory.
Exactly. I think in the simplest way, that's what the golden rule is about. Which is what I think the law of the land should be.
Right.
The law,
which is kind of not what they're doing. I've been looking around and surprisingly, doing unto others. I mean, look, I was gonna say that, like, if you want to edit the screed about racism out of the podcast or put it at the end,
I don't want to. I want to leave this unedited. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get one element of white privilege is thinking people want to hear what you have to say about it.
I haven't said much publicly, and I mean, other than I've said that, there's nothing more American than dissent and revolt.
Sure.
I believe that to be true.
Sure.
I've talked about a little bit in the podcast, but in the social media shit, I guess it's not my, I guess I feel like it's not my place to explain to anyone what's going on. Everyone fucking knows what's going on, whether they want to admit it or not. And I'm behind, I put myself behind it wholeheartedly, but I'm not going to, unless like my mother-in-law had a moment of confusion, which she absolutely doesn't, like, I'm not going to try and explain it to anyone. They know.
Right. I was having a conversation with an old friend of mine. We met when we were 16, did like a lot of 16-year-old shit, and still very good friends. And he was like, well, we wouldn't be rioting. And I was like, what the fuck? We totally would be rioting. Do you not remember? Like, we'd be out there. We'd be like in like the 5th row though. And we'd figure out at some point that we should go hang out by the Apple store and wait for someone else to break the windows. And we probably wouldn't get out with like iPhone 11s, but you get like
probably
an iPad
get some
or something.
Beats.
Yeah. Or a JBL sound cone, whatever it is, some ear pods, But I was like, dude, we absolutely would be out there doing that stuff. Are you kidding me?
Right. The looting stuff, Is looting and stealing good, or does it fall within the guidelines of the law? No.
Well, you're a
However,
fireman, so setting fires must have a different.
well, setting fires also. I mean, there are things when I'm like, let it burn, burn,
Yeah.
baby, burn.
Right.
You know. But the looting thing, if I see like a small independent store getting looted, I think it's a bad scene. No one wins. Insurance policies will not cover that.
Yeah, if the business could even afford it.
Business owners, independent, small mom and pop shops, they're not rich. You know, and I think that's
No.
that's a misconception.
However, if it's a Best Buy,
Yeah, fuck them.
if it's a Target,
Get
we
go in there.
we live in a world that's like that. Just we're trying to impose judgment on people based on their purchases, and then there's just a whole universe of people that it's just like, you're never gonna have this. You're never gonna have an iPhone 11 Max 512 gigabytes. Never. So like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, you wrote this story, motherfuckers.
Right.
Why we're talking about this is because I talked about how we shouldn't talk about this. That's how we got. That's how we got here. Sorry.
Do you know what I did want to ask you about? Is something that you have done, and I imagine in the last 8 years you've done again or more, that I've always wanted to do because I work in the coffee industry.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to Ethiopia.
Oh.
And 2 places. I've been so many places in the world. Either as a tourist or playing music. And I always wanted to go to Ethiopia, and I always wanted to go to Kenya.
I don't know from Kenya, but I can tell you a lot about Ethiopia. Man, absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
And so cheap.
Right.
I spent, on my way home, I had a layover in London that was like 24 hours. I literally spent as much in London in 24 hours as I did in just under a month in Ethiopia.
It sounds like I'm going to guess here, and I don't think you talked about it in the book, but I'll bet you pack light.
Yeah, pretty light.
Do you take a backpack? Do you take a roller bag? All that kind of stuff?
I gotta have a roller bag. I'm not like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not like super, but you go to Ethiopia, the nice hotel's $15.
Right.
The budget option is $5.
Right. Have you been to Cuba?
I have not.
You should do it.
Definitely want to go. Yeah.
You should do it. I did a month in Cuba on a bicycle. It was great.
It's fantastic.
Great. It was when Castro was, disappeared. When he was vanished for a spell. It was like 2007, right? Everyone was speculating that he was dead. No public appearances. So I was like, I got to get there before he's dead, before the floodgates open and it changes. Yeah. And just went there through Mexico.
Wow.
That's the way to go. That's the way you do it.
So Obama relaxed the restrictions, and then now they are unrelaxed. Is that correct?
I haven't looked into I mean, I would go the same way I went before if I were to do it again.
Right.
Also, for anyone that's listening, what did I bring? I brought a bunch of candy and pencils and paper pads. And I was like, I'm going to give these to kids. And I thought it was going to be great. And if I had it to do all over again, I would buy like a sea bag, like a Navy sea bag, just like a giant fucking over the shoulder job. And I would go to the thrift store and I would spend, as much money as I could afford at every thrift store in the entire county on baseballs and baseball bats and gloves.
Really?
Absolutely.
Really?
And that's what I would bring down there.
Wow.
Because everywhere you go, kids are playing baseball. There's just baseball happening everywhere. And with homemade everything and no gloves. And they're just playing. They're just playing baseball. So that's what I would definitely do different. Yeah.
I'm going to keep that in mind. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, I thought that I was going to see more soccer / football.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it's a baseball country. I knew this kind of the whole Caribbean. I mean, they got teams in the World Cup that go for the World Cup, but
right.
They're
amazing place.
Baseball land. Yeah.
Is Ethiopia one of your favorite places to travel as a tourist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's it is. There aren't a lot of tourists, which, I mean, I guess it's kind of lame to be like, well, I don't want to be somewhere where there's tourists, but I don't, and I like being able to experience a place, in a low key manner.
Right.
But it's gorgeous. It's got the greatest weather in the world. It's 65 degrees year round. It rains in August. And I know that it's perplexing to people because of the famine, which happens in the north and the south of the country. Right. And there's so much great ancient Ethiopian Orthodox Christian art, paintings and monasteries and crosses. They have these really ornate crosses everywhere made of pewter. And
isn't the Ark of the Covenant supposed to be in Ethiopia?
Yes, it's supposed to be in Ethiopia. I saw the building that it's supposed to be in. Which is like made of cinder blocks, by the way, and is not surrounded by people. It's in this little building.
I didn't know they had cinder blocks 2,000 years ago.
I think they may have upgraded.
Incredible.
I think they may have upgraded over the years, but it's not some ceremonial looking building. And there's a guy that sits in there, and he sits in there for the rest of his life.
Yes. There's just a full-time, he's like a volunteer.
It's beyond full-time.
Guard.
I mean, he's a monk, and he has the honor of sitting. I don't mean like he gets up and does it 10 or 12 hours a day. I mean, he lives in there for the rest of his life, and he is replaced when he dies.
Can you see him?
Yeah. I could kind of see him. You could sort of see his shadow, but it doesn't look like there's room to lay down.
Really?
Yeah. It's intense. The other thing that was, I know, there are many questions. The other thing was you would keep going to places where there would be like I hired a guide in Lalibela, which is where the stone churches are, which I'm not going to explain. You should look them up.
Okay.
But we went into one of the stone churches, and there's always a priest sitting at the altar, and he has a cross, and there's a certain way that you kiss the cross. It's like in a certain order, and a thing you do with your hand. And so the guy comes up and goes to the guy and goes, whatever the pattern was. He goes, okay, well, this cross was made in the 14th century, blah, blah. It's like, what? We went to a monastery on an island and the priest brought out their Bible, which it was like a 12th century Bible that was written in sticks, like they had glued sticks to the page, right?
No.
And yeah, and it's something more fancy than that. It didn't look like a child's art project.
Right.
But it was like these three, and so
they ran out of sticks, and they put some shells and some macaroni.
Yeah, some little glitter. But he was like, "Do you want to touch it?" And I was like, "Do I want to touch it? Like what?" The other people were like, "Oh yeah," feeling the letters. Yeah.
So you touched it?
I touched the edge of the page. I didn't touch the lead.
Yeah, I don't know if I would want the responsibility of the liability of fucking it up. I'm notorious for fucking that kind of thing up.
I know. I mean, it's intense, and they have so much beautiful stuff. And anybody that has anything to do with tourism down there is so pissed off about Live Aid. They're so pissed off about it because that's all anybody knows about Ethiopia.
Right.
And they're really testy about it. So they were like, "Oh, why did you come to Ethiopia?" I was like, "Oh, I just heard of the famine. Heard about the famine, huh? Yeah, is that the famine? Did you just know about the famine?" So it was like,
Have you been out of the city much? Have you gone to any coffee growing regions?
I didn't go to the coffee growing regions. No.
No.
I went to the north of the country where Aksum is, Lalibela, went to Bar which is on a big ass quasi Great Lake sized lake. And then Addis Ababa, of course. And then, there's another city in there. But I didn't go to the coffee growing regions.
What have your music experiences been there?
Well, I saw some really fantastic music. I saw a band playing in a hotel bar for like 3 people, like the White People Hotel, the Gion in Addis. And they were the most incredible band. And they played crars, which is like a lyre, basically, and strings with a pickup on it. You mute it. Got a bass crar. There was a regular crar player, drummer, percussionist, couple singers. And they were incredible. And I will always feel bad for not just walking up being like, "Hey, you guys, I'll give you each $100 if I can record you and, just play for an hour." Insane. And then I went to see Asmaris, who are these like improvisational comedian singer guys. And so you go into a bar and there's an Asmari and he like wanders around and you're sitting in, the little tables you see in Ethiopian restaurants. And he's just like sort of wandering the floor and there'll be a couple of dancers coming up. He's playing solo and he just busts on people. And, I'm with this guy who I met because I went down to the lake and I was just playing guitar. And this guy was like, "Holy shit, you're a musician. I want to hang out with you." So this guy took me to like the deep, deep bars. And so he was translating. So the guy goes, sings to somebody and it sounded like he said Washington, D.C. I was like, what did he say? He said, he told that lady her teeth were white like the snow in Washington, D.C. They weren't, and because D.C. is huge for Ethiopians. It's such a huge community. But so, he's wandering the room and they'll just like wander somebody and, talk to them a second and just bust on them. Everybody's dying laughing.
He's like a roving roaster.
He's a roving roaster. Exactly.
That's so amazing.
He's looking around and he wanders across the room and his eyes land on the white guy.
Sure.
And you just see it. And he comes over and the guy's name is Lul, right? And my friend. Mm-hmm. And he's like, blah, 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 blah. And Lul goes, "Mike." And I was like, oh. Oh no. And like the guy spent like 5 minutes on me, and doing Mike, just the word Mike coming out every once in a while, and everybody was dying laughing in the place. And so I turned to Lul and I was like, "What is he saying?" And he goes, "Oh, he's saying words of praise for you." I was like, "Okay." Yeah.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
He was, but like your teeth are white as the snow in Washington, D.C.
Right.
The only thing I got that he actually said to me was, he said, "I like Mike so much, I hope he marries an Ethiopian woman and stays here forever," which I'm guessing that's not actually what he was trying to communicate.
Right. But maybe not off the table.
Maybe not off the, no, certainly not. Absolutely.
Who knows?
I met a guy in his 60s, who was staying at one of the hotels on the lake, which are super, super fancy in Ethiopian terms, but they cost $15 a night. And he had lived in Sweden this is like 2006, maybe. And I know that he had lived long enough in Sweden that he'd actually seen Jimi Hendrix play.
Oh.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh yeah, I saw Jimi Hendrix in Stockholm." It was fucking incredible talking to this guy. And he worked in a chemistry department at a university, like some administrative kind of job. And on his Swedish pension, he moved back to Ethiopia and was living like a Mac. Wow. And he had this wife, this young woman that was a wife, and she had like the dope beauty move is to tattoo dots along your chin and then a little cross. She had all the tattoos, and like this guy was living like a Mac. And yeah. So yeah, like, it's my retirement plan,
I feel like there are a lot of places I've traveled to,
mm-hmm.
and I'm always thinking to myself, I wonder if I could live here. What would it be like to live here? I get
that's what I always do.
In the tiniest beach villages in Mexico, I've gotten those feelings. But the thing is, I'm not a beach person. Like, I could give a fuck about getting in the fucking ocean, really. Like, so I like to jump in, and I'm like, the beach. Thankfully, like almost all of the vacations my wife and I have been on, they've ended up being beach vacations because she thinks she wants to go to the beach. But she's also fair, and she's got like skin cancer concerns now, and she's like, I don't want to. She just announced this last week. She said, "I don't think I ever want to go on another beach vacation." And I couldn't have been happier in that moment. Could not have been happier.
You want to go to Europe where you can drink some coffee.
We've both been all over Europe, and
I
love it. I've never been to Norway, actually, and neither of us have been to Iceland, though those are both really expensive places to travel to.
They're not terrible. They're not cheap, but also the happiest people in the universe are Scandinavians in the summertime.
Right.
Like they, the sun comes up at 4, sun sets at 10.
Right.
And the other part of the year, it comes up at 10 and goes down at 2. So they are the happiest people in the world. The light is always like pink and beautiful. And man, you keep hearing these things like, "Oh yeah, Denmark's the happiest country in the world. Sweden's the happiest country in the world." They got to do these surveys in summer because like it is just like the vibe is so good. Like everybody's in the best possible mood.
I've only ever been to Sweden and Finland in the summer.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you know.
But I have been to Alaska in the winter. And
Why'd you
I
do
think that's
that?
about the same music. Going to play music. Have you been to Alaska?
I've never been to Alaska. It's the only state I haven't played.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's places to play up there.
I know. I keep every year I talk to my booking agent about this, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll do that this year," and then it never happens. But
You should go up there and I mean, I don't think you're friends with John. That's how we connected.
yeah,
John Roderick is from Alaska. If you don't know,
that's right.
that's why he's so fucking weird. Uh,
He's got hookups. He's got to have hookups.
he's got to, yeah.
Yeah,
There are a few places. It's weird though. It's like it's a little ding 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 ding.
yeah, yeah. So I've gathered.
Yeah.
But go there in the summertime, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! And the problem is my agent is like an agent, so he's like, oh, you can never get a guarantee from any of those bars. You'd have to do it for the door. I'm like, well, I'll do it for the door, just
For
so
the
I can say I've played
experience.
in every state. Yeah,
You've performed in Hawaii?
I have. It was a radio station, it was KFOG in San Francisco. They had like some contest where it's like, we'll fly you out and put you up in Maui, and you get this and you get that, and you'll get a show. And the show was me.
Amazing.
So, not the most expensive act to hire. That much had something to do with it. But I got to Hawaii, man.
But they covered your trip too. Did you stay for some extra time?
No, like 2 days. I wouldn't. They didn't put me up for a week. But it was at the fucking Four Seasons.
That's that's nothing to
Yeah.
sneeze at.
Tom Arnold was on his honeymoon at the same time, which was nuts. Yeah. And I know this because Tom Arnold was there at the pool with his wife, and then I read somewhere online like Tom Arnold's on his honeymoon in Hawaii, and I was like, there it is, right in front of me.
Look, there's the news.
I'm watching history unfold.
Do you end up finishing tours and lingering in an area for a few days?
No, I usually my agent's really good. He's always got me rooted in a way that I don't have like some haul to get back to
Right.
wherever I'm going. I go places though. I've spent a lot of time in Minneapolis making a record, a lot of time in LA making multiple records. Been down to New Orleans a bunch just because it's like a 6-hour drive, so it's fun to go down there. Yeah, I'd like an extended stay in Portland. That's a place I like to go to. But I mean, really like fucking Paris, Rome. I want to go to those places and have like
I've spent extra time after a tour or in the middle of tours there. I have some friends there. And, growing up a hick, I always heard stories about how the French were this and that. And I had an amazing time. I've been back a few times. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. They're great unless they think you're English, and then they're dicks to you. But as long as they know you're not English.
Right.
I remember a cab driver saying to me, "Stupid Anglaise." It was like, and it's because like he had to go to a tour bus, and I was like, no, you got to go down here, and it was like, finally just like "Stupid Anglaise."
I usually would start any interaction with someone by saying, I'm sorry that I don't speak French.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for not speaking French. Can you speak English with me? And then they'd be like, okay,
That is fine. The key move is asking, not just because I was in Germany one time, and there were all these Italian tourists in Munich, and the thing they did that was really dickish was speak English to people.
Right.
They just like marched up to anybody and started speaking English to them, and it was so bizarre. because, you just have to learn how to say, can we speak English? And they're always like, yeah, like, absolutely. But it's so impolite to just walk up to somebody and,
Can you imagine? I guess I can, but like, imagine if someone just walked up to you and started speaking Mandarin as if you were supposed to understand. Maybe someday.
Well, that would make me think like, this person thinks I'm a smart person.
Right.
This person thinks that I'm a guy who can learn Mandarin.
This person is a person who thinks that I've been planning for the future.
Yes, indeed. Listen, I gotta get off the machine.
Yeah, my wife's probably going to be walking through this door any moment and making a ruckus.
We like a ruckus from now.
We do.
And now and then we like a ruckus. Well, this was really fun. I really enjoyed this.
I'm glad. I very, very much enjoyed it as well. What I didn't tell you, and I wasn't sure I was going to tell you this or not, just because yesterday I heard you narrate your story to me.
Yes.
But does this sound right? Because I have a lot of blind spots in my memory.
Times.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I swear that I saw you perform in 1994. Could have been 95.
Yeah.
At
plausible thus far.
At Mo in Seattle, Washington.
Right? Yeah. That happened.
Yeah.
That definitely happened.
Yeah. I was there. I remember being there. And now that we have a rapport, I feel a lot more comfortable saying this. Yes. And it will make a lot more sense because I've already talked about being insecure. But I was there with my girlfriend at the time, who is how John and I met, because it was his ex-girlfriend.
Oh.
And we came to see you guys play, and it just like your band ticked all the boxes because you even named Czech Tribe like in the first chapter and all
Yep.
Yeah. So the show was fucking dynamite. There was so much energy coming off the stage, and you are a great performer. And I remember we were leaving, and that slacker fucking hater thing in me resented you for your your dancing on stage and your freedom.
Loving it.
And leaving, yes. I said, yeah, well, I think that guy was trying a little too hard. And my girlfriend said, I thought he was sexy. And I was like, fuck.
There you go.
And now I realize that you were. Yeah. It was great. It was fucking dynamite. And I can't wait.
I mean, if I were me now, then I probably would be more jazzy about it and stick to the mic. But I liked the moving around. I sure did. I liked the arm moves and the whole nine.
Well, I don't know when you're going to be back out on the road, but I can't wait to see you up. Hopefully up this way. I don't know if you play.
Yeah, I was planning a triple door show.
Well,
August.
I'm not in the Seattle anymore, unfortunately. Oh, I'm upstate.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Where did I go?
Maybe up here. I mean, I'm out there sometimes.
Hudson, I'd love to do Helsinki again. Wait, did they move from Hudson? Helsinki's still in Hudson.
No, it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah. They were in Great Barrington for a while. Massachusetts.
Oh yeah,
that's where I first played.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard that.
Yeah. I know I'm gonna have a City Winery show at some point because Michael Dorff and City Winery, have been very good to me and have booked shows that have gotten me things such as a roof and food. So City Winery, I mean, I was hoping for August. But I don't know. But I'd love to get up to Hudson, man.
Get on it.
I'm on it. Getting out the laptop now. Getting it right. Dear Dave, it's time we talk. Yeah.
Let's talk about the near future.
Yes. God willing, near future.
Thanks for giving me so much time.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so much fun.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Happy 20 years, man.
Thank you. And happy 50 years in 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. 20 years, yeah.
Thanks, man.
It's amazing. Keep it up.
It's weird. It's super weird.
Of course it is. Life is weird.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you later.
Take care of yourself.
Goodbye.